Thank you all for getting quiet. Awesome. You know, we've been talking about this moment for a long time, and we are so excited to have these amazing guests here with us today. You all know, if you're in my humanities class, I've spoken a lot about my great friend Amanda. I've known Amanda for a few years now, and she is really passionate about the events that took place in Pearl Harbor on December 7th. So she does a lot of work with helping honor the men who served on that day, and she's brought a couple of the survivors here to talk to us today. So we've got, if you all will come up with your lei, we're going to present you all with some leis. Okay, and Mrs. Rawlings, we have a song that they would like to sing for you all. We're going to sing God Bless America.
We thought you would like to hear God Bless America from our fourth graders.
Okay, thank you, Amanda. I'm going to pass you the mic.
Good afternoon. We are so happy to be here. My name is Amanda, and I am with the Best Defense Foundation along with my team here. And this week we brought 63 World War II veterans back to Honolulu for the 80th anniversary of Pearl Harbor. But within those 63, we had 6 Pearl Harbor survivors. And I brought 2 of them here today to speak to you about their experiences and what they went through that day and after the war. One of them is Mr. David Russell. He is 101 years old, and he was a survivor of the USS Oklahoma, right along Battleship Row, right next to the Arizona, which I'm sure you have visited or will visit in the future. And the other gentleman sitting here is Mr. Freeman Johnson. He is also 101 years old. And he served aboard the USS St. Louis, which was also in Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941. So from what I understand, you guys have been learning all about Pearl Harbor and what happened here on December 7th, and you've learned about the American side and the Japanese side, which I think is the most special part, because there's always 2 sides to a story, and we need to get everyone's perspectives of what happened here that day. These 2 men witnessed the attack firsthand. The average age of a sailor or soldier or Marine at the time was 19 years old. We have some World War II veterans with us on this trip that were 15 years old, landing on the beaches of Iwo Jima and fighting the enemy for freedom. So we are so honored to bring them back. On December 7th, as you know, the attack began at 7:55 on a Sunday morning. Can you tell me what you guys usually do on Sunday mornings? There you go. This gentleman right here. Swim class, who else? Brush your teeth and take a bath. What else do you do on Sunday mornings? Here. Watch TV. All right, so everyone pretty much relaxes, takes the morning, but on that Sunday morning, it was a little bit different. At 7:55, over 350 planes from the Japanese Empire flew over this island. They split off and they attacked every single military base here on the island. Kaneohe, Pearl Harbor, Eva, Army at Schofield, and they tried to weaken the U.S. military as best they could. First, they went after the airfields. They wanted to make sure our planes never got off the ground. Second, they went after the battleships because they didn't want those battleships to be able to get out of the harbor and find their fleet that had launched the aircraft. After Pearl Harbor, we immediately went into salvage mode. All of our ships were salvaged and went back into service, except for 3. The USS Arizona, which is where the memorial stands, the USS Utah, which is on the other side of Ford Island, and there's a memorial there too, and the USS Oklahoma, which is Mr. Russell's ship. Now, the USS Oklahoma was hit by 9 torpedoes and capsized within 11 minutes, taking 429 men with her. There were some men that were rescued out of the ship. Mr. Russell was lucky enough to get off of the ship. So, you don't really want to hear me talk. I would like for them to tell their story of what they went through that day. And after they're finished, we'll take some questions and we'll make sure that you guys have every answers to all your questions, and they're happy to do that for you. All right? All right, Mr. Russell. Why don't you go ahead and tell them where you're from, where you grew up, and then what happened to you on December 7th? No, not that one.
I was born and raised in Nebraska, a little community called Auburn. It's southeastern part of Nebraska. It's 10 miles from Missouri and 35 miles from Kansas. Let's see. I was just trying to think of stuff Depression Day. Yeah. And then the Depression Days really hit us hard. So anyway, I decided to join the PC's Civil Conservation Corps to help my folks. They gave us $30 a month, and we got $5. They sent $25 to my folks. So then, when my time was up in the CC camp, I joined the Navy in '39, and I went aboard the Oklahoma in March '40. Oh, I keep doing that. Then I reported aboard the Oklahoma in March 1940 in San Pedro, California. And you want me to go ahead and speak about the December 7th? Okay, and on morning of December 7th, I was down in the compartment just reading, waiting to turn 2. Turn 2 was to go to work. And we had just cleaned out the bilges the morning before, and we just getting ready to put the plates back on. And then the loudspeaker went on, and the Lieutenant Ramos said, this is an attack, fellas. Please man your battle station. So I had 2 battle stations. If we came under air attack, I was the sink cover. And if we came under surface action, I was the man the broadside 5-inch gun. So since there was an air attack, I went down through the armor piercing and then down to another armor piercing deck, which is 13.5 inches thick. And once I got down there, I thought, I was trained to be a first loader on an anti-aircraft gun. In case somebody gets hurt, I could replace them. So I crawled back through the hatch again. About that time, they closed the hatch. And going through every hatch, I'd try to undog it, and someone on the other side would dog it down. Of course, that was our battle station. So by the time I got topside, I had to crawl over personal lockers, divert myself around through the ship. And when I got outside, when I got out topside, the water was just coming over the gunwales. So it was about 45 degrees over. And then I hand over, we had a fresh water line coming from the beach over to the Maryland. We were alongside the Maryland, and from the Maryland to the Oklahoma. And so I overhand myself up and over the ship. And as I went over the ship, I made a big jump, and I caught a hold of a line that was hanging over the battleship Maryland. And it was a sandbag between the two ships, so the two ships wouldn't rub together. And I hoisted myself aboard the Maryland, and I was very nervous. I didn't know what to do, so I went over and I started manning the ammunition they were passing. It was a 1.1 anti-aircraft gun. I had someone give me a few instructions how to pass ammunition, so that sort of eased me a little bit. And after the attack was over, the commanding officer of the Maryland requested all Oklahoma sailors please leave the ship. Well, when I left the ship, I went over to Fort Island, and from Fort Island I went up to the administration building where the seaplanes were located. And I went in the administration building, and that's where all the young men that were walking through the fire, and they were so well burnt you couldn't recognize them. And they wanted to smoke, and I didn't smoke. So there was a little deduct stand there, and I went over and got a pack of cigarettes and some matches, and went over and lit their cigarettes. And then some of them expired on me, so I had to take their cigarette out of their mouth. And then I left the area. I don't know why I left it, but anyway, I left it. I went over and took a look at all the seaplanes that were damaged. And then from there, someone said a Japanese plane had hit the hospital. So I went over to the hospital. Sure enough, there was a Japanese plane there that hit the hospital. And then from there, I went over to the receiving station, and that's where they fed us. And we had to bed down in IEA, a little recreation area across the street.
Were you ever scared during that time when you were on your ship, or when you got off your ship? Were you ever scared?
Oh, yes. Well, you get scared all through during the war years. I think the worst time to really be scared, I tried to count the torpedoes that hit us, but too many of them hit us. I think more than 9 of the torpedoes. I don't know, however. I think they're checking that now. Let's see. Being scared, let me tell you a story. I got to get it just straight in my mind. Oh, when the second time we were sunk at sea, 3 of us in the water, and once we got in the water, there was a wounded man, so we put him on a stage we had, and he swam away. And then we started going around the Lady Island there. We were actually between Samoa, I can't remember the island's name, but anyway, we went around Lady Island, and the tide was carrying us out. And I thought, sure, some ship would come and pick us up. And I don't know how long we were in the water. It was quite a while. And finally, a ship did come over the horizon. And I could tell the difference between a Japanese ship and an American ship. And as soon as I saw that mast, I was pretty happy. But they did rescue us, and I never saw the other man again.
So in addition to the USS Oklahoma, Mr. Russell went on to fight in the Pacific, and he was stationed aboard the USS Mahalo. In 1942, it was hit by kamikazes and sunk. So he was on 2 sinking ships during the war, and that is where he was swept out to sea and rescued by a kamikaze. Right. All right. I'm going to pass the mic over to Mr. Freeman Johnson from the USS St. Louis.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I enlisted in the Navy 1939. It was Depression, at the end of the Depression. And unemployment was about 25%. Where, so the jobs were hard to find. I enlisted in the Navy and got sent to Newport, Rhode Island, a boot camp. From there we went to NOB, Norfolk Operating Base, Norfolk, Virginia. I got assigned to the St. Louis. We went up and down the Atlantic for a while, but by the summer of 1940, we'd gone through the canal and joined the Pacific Fleet, which looked like a nice, cushy job. You sit in Hawaii, you sit Pearl Harbor on weekends, Mondays, everybody gets underway, they go out and do maneuvers out in the Pacific. Friday afternoon, we come back, tie up, and you got Saturday and Sunday in lovely Honolulu until Sunday morning, December the 7th. And we, at that, where the first bombs started, they sounded GQ, General Quarters. You kids have seen the movies where everybody scrambles to get to their spot. GQ, General Quarters, is major battle stations. Everybody has a spot on the ship where you are supposed to be. And you got about a minute to get there. My spot was in front of number 3 boiler, which is at the bottom of the ship. So you don't see much, except in front of the boiler. So I had no idea how much destruction was being done throughout the harbor. We tried to get underway. We did get underway, but it takes a while. It's not like you turn the key on a car and drive off. You have to warm the boilers up, warm the engines up, and then get going. So it takes you a while. But we got out without a scratch. So they call her the Lucky Lou, because we did get out. It was 3 or 4 days later before we come back to Pearl Harbor, but just for fuel. We went from, and we picked up fuel and went to San Francisco to get radar. And I didn't see this destruction for quite a while. I had no idea how much damage has been really done here. And shortly after, by the end of the summer in 42, they transferred me off to St. Louis. And I went to Brooklyn, New York, to the USS Iowa, sister ship of the Missouri out here. Like it's called the Iowa class. There's 4 of them. Guy in New Jersey, Missouri, and Wisconsin. And from there, we went to the Pacific and we did up and down the Pacific Ocean from Millie all the way to Tokyo. We were at Tokyo Harbor when they signed the peace treaty. But again, I was in the fire room. So any battles we were in, or skirmishes we were in, I didn't see a thing. You don't see anything. They tell you you joined the Navy to see the world. The world to me looked like the front of a boiler. That's about it. Amanda?
So Mr. Johnson saw the beginning of the war at Pearl Harbor, and he saw the end of the war in Tokyo Bay with the surrender on, well, he was on the Iowa, but he was right next to the USS Missouri, close by, right? Were you close by the Missouri when the surrender was signed, or
Yes.
were you far away?
I could see it, we could see it. It was like just a couple of 100 yards away, yeah.
And was everybody standing on the decks trying to see? Was everybody trying to stand on the decks trying to see?
Oh yeah, lots of us were. Yeah, we were happy it was over, because we were afraid we'd have to invade Japan, and we were right there. We knew a lot of us would be casualties.
Mr. Russell, what did you feel on VJ Day? What did you feel when the Japanese signed the surrender?
No more fighting. And that was pretty happy. But I think most of the military is tickled pink about it. When you lose somebody, it's no fun.
All right, now we're going to open up to some questions. Ooh, we got a lot for you guys.
My great grandpa was also he was a pilot in World War II, and he flew a B-17.
His great-grandfather was a B-17 pilot in World War II. He wanted to tell you guys that.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Did you know each other before when World War II happened?
Did you and Mr. Johnson know each other before we came on this trip?
Not to my knowledge.
You want to tell them about your brother-in-law? You want to tell them about your brother-in-law?
I had a brother-in-law aboard ship. Of course, I didn't realize he was my brother-in-law till probably it was in the 60s I found out. When I retired from the Navy, I went to Oregon to live because I was with the ROTC program for 3 years. And then I started working for the Air Force, and they hired two of us. This lady, she was hired, and they hired me. And she somehow we were talking about, she said something about her brother being on the Oklahoma. And I said, what was his name? And she told me, but it for some reason didn't register. And then we started talking about it one day, and then I remembered we both went on leave one time. That was in 1940, before the war, and he got off at he got off at someplace in North Dakota, and I got off in Fargo, North Dakota, because my home was south of Fargo, about 200 miles. Oh, and somehow I was telling the lady I was working with that I said, I'm quite sure I knew your brother because he took me down the fire room where he was a fireman, and he showed me how to light off the fire room. And that was pretty interesting.
So Mr. Russell met his wife 20 years later and found out her brother had also served on the Oklahoma and was killed that day. Now, I don't know if you've heard, but there's an organization called the Defense POW MIA Accounting Agency, and they take the remains of the USS Oklahoma and they do DNA testing to identify those members that were never identified during the war. Then they identify them and are able to bury them with honors with their name. And Mr. Russell's brother-in-law was one of those who was identified and returned back and is now buried in Arlington National Cemetery with proper burial. All right, next question. I know, you're doing good. You're doing good.
What branch of the military were you in when you were?
What branch of the military were you in? What branch were you in?
Okay, the branch. There's no branch, it's just a division. I was in the 5th Division on the Oklahoma.
He was in the U.S. Navy. What branch of the military?
Right, Navy.
How was your family when they found out you guys survived World War II?
How did your family react when they got word that you survived?
Well, happy, of course, yeah. Actually, I was 5,000 miles away, and it's not like today when you can buzz on the telephone, on a smartphone. They didn't get the word until I wrote them a letter, and it got mailed. It was probably 2 months later before they knew I had survived. Yeah.
What about you, Mr. Russell? How did your family react, and how long did it take for your family to find out you had survived?
After I went to the receiving station, my uncle from Hickam Field came over, and he told me he had written a letter to the parents of my parents and his parents that we were okay. However, my mom did not receive a letter. Okay. So I don't know what happened after that.
Next question.
What year were you two born?
What year were you born?
1920. I'm 101 years old.
Same for Mr. Johnson as well.
Did you guys get hurt or injured?
Were you hurt or injured during the attack? Were you hurt or injured during the attack?
No, I came out okay. Just my, it affected my brain, I think.
What about you? Were you injured or hurt? Were you injured or hurt during the attack?
No. All during the war, I was
You were pretty safe down there, huh?
pretty sick.
When is your birthday?
When is your birthday?
Freeman.
When is your birthday?
Oh, birthday, March 11th.
March 11th, 1920. And when's your birthday?
9/15/20.
September 15th, 1920. He has a question for you guys. Do you think he'll make it to 102? I think he will too.
Was it a dream that you wanted to be a Navy? Was it a dream of theirs to be in the Navy?
Was it a dream of yours to join the Navy?
During the Depression days, anything to make money. Nobody had money. When I joined the service, it was $30 a month. And after your graduation, we went to $36 a month. We took an examination after a year, and you go up to $54 a month.
Living large.
Yeah.
What about you? Was it a dream to join the Navy or was it a necessity?
It was a necessity. Yeah. The war's been going on in Europe for a couple of years, 3 years, and the nation was about evenly divided whether we should go to Europe and back up the British and the French and the Dutch and so Roosevelt was trying to build up our industry to assist the British, and that was one of the jobs the St. Louis did before we went to the Pacific. We scouted an air base in Argentia. Argentia is a little town in Nova Scotia. Today, it's still in use. It's used as an emergency stop because it's on the direct line from New York to London, and Great Circle Line.
All right, next question.
When your ship was bombed, did you have to swim to shore, or did some people come and help you?
Did anyone come and help you when you were trying to get off your ship?
No, you just doing the best you could to survive. Oh, let me tell them about in September, sometime in September 1920, I had to replenish my high blood pressure pills. So I went to the pharmacist to get the pills. She says, what date were you born? I said, 9/15/20. And she started snickering, you know. It was 9/15/20.
Did people celebrate Christmas?
Oh, that's a good question. Did people celebrate Christmas after December 7th?
Celebrate what?
Christmas. How did Christmas?
Oh.
Was it kind of sad? A sad Christmas?
Well, we didn't celebrate Christmas, no. I don't know how they did it on the shore, but it's just another day when you're at sea. You got 4 hours of watch, 8 off, and 4 hours on, 8 off, and every day, Saturday, Sunday, Christmas, Monday, doesn't matter. It's all the same.
After December 7th, the ships went right to work out into the Pacific, so sailors were working constantly. Next question.
Did you guys still work at the Navy when December 7th was over?
Did they continue working in the Navy even after the war?
After the war?
Well, he said after December 7th, but, even
after
further
the war.
maybe?
After the war was over, did you continue on in the Navy?
Yes, I went to, I'll have to tell them. Let's see, I extended my time was up, so I thought, everybody said, don't get out of the service because there's no jobs. So I just extended my enlistment for 2 years. Well, then I had 8 years in, so where else can I retire in 14 years? So I stayed in the service. And every 6 months we'd go overseas. We'd come back to the States for 6 months and back overseas. And then during the Korean War, we were in Incheon in 1950, and we got orders to go back to the States. And a day before we got into Pearl Harbor, war broke out. So he came into Pearl Harbor, took on provisions, and right back to Korea again. And then in 1953, I didn't want to go back to Korea, so I asked for a transfer, and they sent me to England for the Queen's coronation. That was in 53. Oh, yes.
He said he was at the Queen's ordination?
Queen's coronation, yes,
Wow.
Queen Elizabeth. What about you? Did you stay in the Navy after the war?
No, I got out.
So how long did you serve total?
Total 6 years and 2 weeks, actually.
6 years and 2 weeks.
How old were you when you joined the Navy?
How old were you when you joined the Navy?
19.
18?
I was 19 years old.
19? How about you? How old were you when you joined?
19. Yeah.
So, when you had to join the Navy, do you even have a choice to join any of the other divisions, or do you have to like join the Navy?
Why did you choose the Navy?
I wanted to see the world, and believe me, I saw it. It's wonderful. I want to tell you, I can't hear very well, so when you talk, I can't hear you. So she has to repeat this. And you know, we fired so many rounds during World War II. We had to replace our gun barrels, and so we put cotton in our ears in those days. And the first round that went off, the cotton popped out. So now I'm saying, huh? And the VA gives me hearing aids every 3 years, but I still say, huh? I don't.
And what about you, Mr. Johnson? Why did you choose the Navy?
Well, the draft had been passed, but it wasn't enforced yet. And I do, because I was unemployed at the time, I'd be picked sooner or later. And I like to go for a walk, a couple of miles at the most. And I thought if I got drafted, I'd wind up in the Army, and I'd have to walk all across Europe. And that didn't look like a good idea, so I joined the Navy.
All right, next question.
Was anybody with you in the war?
Like a friend or a family member?
Yeah.
Did you make any friends during the war? Did you make any friends during the war?
No.
No.
You had to have money to make plans. We didn't have any money.
To make friends?
Oh, friends. Oh, yes. Everybody aboard ship's your friend. And look at all the friends I have out here now. You don't realize walking out there in the streets, everybody waving at you and shaking your hand. It's great.
Last night they were in the Pearl Harbor Memorial Parade in Waikiki. Did anyone go to that? No, it was on TV and they got wheelchaired all the way down Kalakaua Avenue. It was pretty amazing. What about you? Did you have any friends in the war?
No.
No friends?
No.
All right. You all went their separate ways. All right, next question.
Did you shoot down any planes when you were on your ship, or did you just evacuate?
Did you shoot down any planes when you were on your ship? Did you shoot down any planes when you were on your ship?
On the Oklahoma, we didn't fire any rounds. We had ammunition at the end of the aircraft guns, but we were supposed to have admiral's inspection on Monday, so all the ammunition went down below decks. So there's no way we could. But during World War II, we shot down, quite a few. I'm trying to remember. Okay. During the Battle of Santa Cruz, we lost two ships, the Hornet, the aircraft carrier Hornet, and a destroyer Porter. And I think we got shot down 6 planes that day. Those kamikazes, 10 kamikazes came at us, and I think we shot down 5. 3 of them hit us. One of them came at the gun I was on, and he was going to crush us, and it exploded. It just threw debris all over us. I forget. Anyway, yeah. And then another. Every time a plane hit another one came in on us, and the pilot and I were eyeballing one. That's how close he came to me. But he was trying to get his plane down to hit us, and he couldn't do it. And he must have been hit.
Where were you born?
Where were you born? Where were you born?
Nebraska.
At Massachusetts.
Did you see all of the ships go down when you went up?
Did you see the other ships burning or sinking in the harbor?
Did I?
Did you see any of the other
Oh.
ships burning or sinking in the harbor?
I didn't see any of the ship burning the harbor. I did see those men waiting ashore trying to fight from being burnt. But I did see the USS Shaw explode, and I'm trying to place myself, where was I located? But it must have been in the afterdeck, the fantail.
Did you see the USS Arizona sinking?
Did you see the USS Arizona sinking?
No, when the Arizona exploded, I was down below decks trying to get out. But I saw a lot of smoke. You couldn't see any of the planes. I think I saw one a Japanese plane.
And Mr. Johnson, when you came back into the harbor a few days later, what did the wreckage look like?
Oh, it was all underwater by then. This memorial that's there now was built years later. And they thought they had this tremendous success with the Pennsylvania, the Levy, and other ships, getting them restored and back on the line. And they thought possibly they might be able to get the Arizona, but they finally gave up, and then they built the memorial over it.
Next question.
How old were you when Pearl Harbor was attacked?
They were both 19.
Was it fun to see Japanese surrender?
Was it fun?
Was it fun or good to see the Japanese surrender?
Oh, we were tickled pink. But after the war, we went into Japan, and believe me, those people treated us so nice. And I had a beard. I had a beard, and the older people sort of stayed away from it. But all the kids came out, and they wanted to feel my beard. But Japan, I think we're the best friends in the world.
What about you, Freeman? Do you have any ill will towards the Japanese?
No. I was a sailor doing a job. They were airmen doing what they were trained and told to do. Had nothing against. And they became friends afterwards, fortunately. You have to give President Truman and of course, General Marshall the credit. But General MacArthur probably did more than anybody else. He insisted that the emperor stay in office. And the Japanese people looked upon him as a god at the time. I don't know how they feel now, but it was an honor to serve him. So they had complete surrender. MacArthur insisted they keep his job. And I think that was a turning point in our relations with Japan.
Did you think you would survive?
Did you think you would survive the war? Did you think you would survive the war?
I'm not getting that for some.
Did you think you would survive the war?
No, I didn't expect to survive. None of us did, to my knowledge.
What about you?
Oh. I was a kid. Come on, you kids are kids. You think you're invincible. You jump in the pool, you do crazy things. I was just a kid doing what I was told.
Did you ever did you ever visit Pearl Harbor after you retired?
When did you first visit Pearl Harbor after you retired from the military?
Oh, after I retired from the military, since I was stationed in Oregon for 3 years, I went back to Oregon to live because I love the weather there. We don't get, if we do get snow, it's very little. It doesn't even cover the grass, and we don't have thunder and lightning, which I like. But I applied for a job with the Air Force, and I was hired by the Air Force.
When did you go back to Pearl Harbor first?
The first time I went back to Pearl Harbor, after the Pearl Harbor, or
Yeah, after Pearl Harbor.
after I
So
retired?
to visit the memorial.
Well, my wife and I we were here for the 50th, but the ships I was on, we'd go in, our supply came from Pearl Harbor.
And Mr. Johnson, when was the first time you visited Pearl Harbor after the war?
15 years ago. I was here for the 65th anniversary, and my kids wanted to come back again one more time.
And what was that feeling like to come back?
I don't know. It's a moving ceremony. I'm sorry it rained yesterday, but in the sunshine, it's a really moving ceremony. They didn't give credit to the ship that went by with the men on the rails. It's quite an honor.
Were you scared to shoot somebody?
Were you scared to shoot someone or shoot at someone?
During the war, it didn't bother us, no. But I would never do it now, no. I think war is awful. We lost too many men. And I feel, like when we got in action, if you destroyed someone, after you get a little older, you start thinking about those people and the loved ones they left behind. It's no fun, thinking about the loved ones,
Did you have any pets or kids at the time that was worried about you?
Did you have any pets or kids at the time that were worried about you back home?
You didn't have any, did you have any pets or kids at the time?
No children.
Children? No children at the time of the war, during the war? Yeah.
How many Japanese planes were there?
How many Japanese planes were there?
There were over 350 Japanese planes that flew over the island in 2 waves.
How long did it last? The 2
Lasted
waves?
approximately 2 hours, from 7:55 to about 9:45. But there was a little bit of a break in between where they had thought maybe the attack was over and that the Japanese were going to invade the island. But that ended up not happening. We have another Pearl Harbor survivor in our group that stayed in his anti-aircraft tub for 3 days and 3 nights waiting for the Japanese to invade the island.
Was there any other battles you went to before Pearl Harbor? Before World War II?
Were they in any battles before Pearl Harbor happened?
There were no battles for the United States before Pearl Harbor happened. This Pearl Harbor launched the United States into World War II.
If you could choose a different job other than the Navy, what would you choose?
If you could choose a different job other than the Navy, what would you choose?
I would stick with the military, regardless where it was.
Can you repeat what he said?
He said he would stick with the military regardless of where it was. What about you? If you could choose any job besides the Navy, where would it be? What would it be?
Besides the Navy, oh, I don't know. Ashore at home.
I think he enjoys retirement.
Okay, we have time for a few more, and then we want to pray and take some pictures with you gentlemen.
Do you think there will be a World War III in 2020?
Do you think there will be a World War III?
No, I don't believe that. I watch TV pretty closely, but no, I think hopefully all wars are over with.
One of the mottos of the Pearl Harbor Survivors Association is keep America alert. Remember Pearl Harbor. So we want to make sure that we do that because these gentlemen will only be with us for a certain amount of time. So now it's our jobs to keep their memory and their stories alive. And that's part of what we all get to do is we get to tell their stories and preserve their history and let them know how much we appreciate what they did for us 80 years ago. We would be living in a very, very different country if it wasn't for how they stepped up that day. So we are very appreciative of them and what they did. Maybe like 2 more questions? Okay.
What year did you retire?
What year did you retire from the military? What year did you retire from the military?
1960. We were in Australia. My time was just about up, so I had to sign a paper to extend my enlistment till my time was so they take me back to the States. But when I was in Europe, we were in Greece, and my time was up, and I wanted to go back to the West Coast, and they wouldn't extend my enlistment on the ship, so they sent me back from Greece back to Washington, D.C. As soon as I got into Washington, D.C., I reported in, and I said, I want to go back to, they wanted me to extend my enlistment. I said, no, I want to go back to the West Coast. They said, we'll send you back to the West Coast if you sign the paper, so I did.
And when did you get out of the Navy?
1945. I didn't stay in.
All right, one more question.
What was fun in being in the military?
What was the best part about being in the military?
Oh, that's a good question. It's just something that once you get well trained, you're a Navy man, an Army man, or a Marine. It doesn't make any difference. Being well trained is the most important part of being a military.
And what was the best part of being in the military?
What?
What was the best part about being in the military?
About being in?
In the military.
Well, being in the Navy, you get 3 meals a day, every day. You could take a shower when you got time, in fresh water, any time. You're drinking water, the Navy takes care of you. The guys in the trenches, they're in the trenches. You know, everything they carry is on their back. Everything they eat, they bring with them. Everything they wear is on their back or on their body. But in the Navy, you got a locker, a bunk to sleep in, and 3 meals a day, every day. I don't know how they do it, but they do it. Yeah.
It's pretty nice. All right.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much. I know you all had more questions, so we will have you write those down. And if it's okay with you, Amanda, I'll get you those questions when you have time. No pressure. Mrs. Gaskins is going to close us in prayer, and then I'd like for each class to come up for a picture to close.
We want to thank you so much. We believe that God's story is the most important story of all, but you are in that story, and we have heard it, haven't we, children? I hope you've become curious. I hope you have seen love and commitment and humility with these two very precious men. Thank you so much. And now we want to thank Jesus, who watched over them and protected them all through the years that they served our nation. Let's pray together. God, we want to thank you that you are the Lord of heaven and earth and the seas. We thank you that we can sit in the presence of Mr. Johnson and Mr. Russell today and know that they have seen some of the worst things that people do to each other. But we thank you that you made them brave and courageous and that they did their jobs in the boiler room and swinging on a rope to get off of a burning ship so that they might serve the country and keep people safe. Thank you for their sacrifice. Thank you for the sacrifice of their families. We thank you so much for Miss Amanda, who keeps telling the story. And we pray your blessing on each one of these people, that they might help us remember and other people that they meet that it is important to love one another, to listen well. Even when we don't get along with people, you want us to pay attention and to stay safe. So we pray your blessing of love and joy and peace. We thank you that we can see with our eyes the story of Mr. Johnson and Mr. Russell today. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Okay, Amanda brought for each of you this really great card that has the picture of each of our survivors and a little biography on the back. So I'll make sure to get that to your classes as a little souvenir, a memento to remember today. And keep these safe, because you're one of not many kids who gets to experience something this powerful. So Mrs. Rawlings' class, we're gonna line up on the steps behind the men. So come up slowly